Welcome back to part two of our conversation with Andy Schectman. Part one, we talked about the Great Reset, what will be leading to it, how China, Russia, and the BRICS are de-dollarizing and using the dollar against the US to sort of advance and build their position in the world. Now, as investors, we need to know how to prepare for this Great Reset, and Andy has promised to run us through his methods and his methodology to sort of prepare for the Great Reset. What is it? Do you need to own gold, silver? How much of it? How much makes sense? And we'll talk about that. Andy, it is good to have you back on. Really loved our part one of the conversation. I'm actually still scared. You can't see it, but I'm shaking a little bit. But it's time also to discuss now how to prepare for it, like the Great Reset. What is happening? I brought up gold and silver. Let's talk about gold and silver here, and how has it been behaving over the last few weeks?
The last few weeks, it's been consolidating, it's been retracing. Look, I think that people need to understand that there are no free markets anymore. My good friends, Chris Powell and Bill Murphy of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, who I will often say we all owe a debt of gratitude to for their tireless war on exposing the manipulation of the market. I love those guys. Chris Powell often says there are no free markets anymore, just manipulations. And so you have to understand, I mean, you can point to the JP Morgan $920 million fine to the Justice Department for manipulating the market, that gold and silver are manipulated, right? First and foremost, they are suppressed. Why are they suppressed? They have originally been suppressed, in my mind, because they are the mirror image of the Western system. They are the kryptonite to the dollar. They are the antithesis of the system. And rising gold and silver are not rising commodities. They are an indication of the fragility, if you will, of the Western system. It's like the Wizard of Oz, the little old frail man behind the curtain with the booming voice is exactly what it is. And so when gold and silver rise, it speaks to the fragility of the system. But what betrays the price is the massive drawdown of supply that we are seeing, not only from the London Metals Exchange, but also from the COMEX, and being backdoored out of all of the world's ETFs by the most influential, well-informed, sophisticated, well-funded traders on the globe. All of these deals, whether it be taking possession of huge amounts off of the ETFs, which you have to take massive amounts and be very sophisticated, or taking deliveries off of COMEX or the LME, again, massive amounts, very sophisticated, not easy to do. This type of withdrawals or departures from the COMEX and the LME ecosystem, from the ETFs, not only diminishes each of those sites, diminishes great liquidity, but it speaks to it being a one-way ticket. It's leaving, it's front running by the sophisticated people. What betrays the price pullback is the amount of deliveries that we are seeing off of COMEX and the LME and the ETFs. So the price is a tool of misdirection, and it's difficult for people to understand that. Going back to what we said in part one, the people who came during silver squeeze are not used to this volatility. Gold and silver are heavily manipulated. Silver has the largest concentrated short position on the COMEX of any currency, or excuse me, any commodity traded. So it speaks to the importance of gold and silver when they use that much effort to suppress it, and even more so when you see the massive amount of deliveries. And people say, well, why isn't the price going higher? It is because the ability of the cartel banks, the commercial banks, who are probably doing it at the behest of the central banks, the US perhaps, to mitigate the price rise by levered futures contracts. If I use COMEX to hedge my position, and in doing so, just the other day, I asked my head trader, how much money do we need to have in our margin account to control a 100-ounce gold contract? And it was a few weeks ago, it was about $7,000. So if I have $7,000 in my margin account, for just a few dollars, I can buy a 100-ounce gold contract, right? What if I'm a commercial bank or a central bank or a sovereign wealth fund with $500 million that I put in my margin account? I can create a perception of reality. I can drive down the paper price. And when everyone is bummed out and looking at licking their wounds and looking to other alternatives because gold and silver are not doing what they're supposed to be doing in the midst of 40-year high inflation and geopolitical chaos and idiocy in our own administration, they get disenchanted. And so that gives the ability of these cartel banks to scoop it all up and pull the real thing in at subsidized prices and then just paper over their short positions with freshly created money. So I'm making it a little bit more simplistic than it truly is, but the point of the matter is that the biggest money in the world is using the suppression of the paper price of gold and silver to accumulate it all before the public catches on, because the public is only keenly aware of the price and not of the fundamentals, because the media doesn't tell us about the fundamentals. A lot of things we talked about in episode 1, most of the people, the mainstream, wouldn't even know that gold is tier 1, wouldn't know about the Belt Road Initiative, wouldn't know that Russia and Saudi Arabia signed a joint military cooperation agreement, wouldn't know about the BRICS currencies all joining together and having it backed by gold. I mean, on and on and on and on. Wouldn't even be able to talk to you about the weaponizing of the dollar because it's not talked about in the media. So when they see the price, that's all that they see. They don't open up the hood to see that it's a squirrel on a wheel chasing a nut running the car. Car looks great on the outside, but you lift up the hood, it's not so great. The analogy I used before, the wizard behind the curtain, the big booming voice and the smoke and the fire, and it's a little old man. Same thing. And that's really the issue with gold and silver. It is being accumulated by the most sophisticated, well-funded, well-informed people on the globe, and they are using price as the ultimate tool of misdirection. I believe that in my soul.
No, you're obviously very, how'd you call it, dedicated to the cause here as well. Really, enthusiasm is the word I was looking for. Enthusiasm. You're enthused about it. Um, I think we need to decouple a little bit for the next part of the conversation, gold and silver, I think. Because there's also an industrial factor playing in. I've been hearing that even over 50% of the silver now is being used in industrial usage.
Yeah, well,
right?
that's what makes
So,
silver so unique. I mean, is the duality of its demand, right? So you have an expansion in demand in things like electric vehicles, Elon Musk, Sony, Apple, Samsung. You need silver in anything that is digital or electronic. There's 500 ounces of silver almost to the drop in the tip of every Tomahawk cruise missile that they seem to fire off like candy or gumballs these days. Silver should be a strategic metal. It is needed in industrial applications, and those industrial applications are expanding in the green world we live in and the digital world we live in. I talk about the Belt Road Initiative, the largest infrastructure project in human history, connecting 70% of human population in Asia and Africa, Europe and South America. It's not just with bridges and roads and maritime channels, it's digitally. The need for silver in this expansive green and digital environment we live in, where war seems to be happening every day all around us, is real. And you need silver, yet it's a depleting asset. But it also has a massive monetary demand and has experienced a renaissance in it. It's what makes silver so unique, a true duality in demand from a commodity. It's rare. Most commodities like gold predominantly have one use, monetary in this case, a little bit in microchips and industrial, but copper, little bit monetary, not so much anymore, mostly industrial. So when you talk about a commodity that has an expansive industrial application and a growing, really growing globally monetary footprint, and at the same time, its geological footprint has been cut in half for 5,000 years. There was a 16-to-1 ratio between gold and silver. Now it's 7-to-1 in what's pulled out of the ground. Silver is found in a form geologically called epithermal, very near the surface. The big deposits were found decades ago. Only 35% of all the silver mined today is from companies that mine silver. So if they mine 1 billion ounces, 350 million come from companies like First Majestic that mine silver. The other 650 million, 65%, comes from companies that have no business whatsoever mining silver. They're mining something completely different. Oh, we found some silver. So their motivation to withhold production or what, it's all out the window. So what you have is a depleted asset with growing use cases that is distorted completely in its historical value, not only geologically, but also in its relationship to gold. It's the value of a generation, 100%, in my opinion. And here again, price is a tool of misdirection. If price was so relevant, then why did India import 304 million ounces, more than it's on the entire COMEX market, 10 times more than backs the bars that are for sale on COMEX? It's getting real. And so whether you talk gold, whether you talk silver, the demand is real. Silver, on the other hand, really is the unique one, where gold is tier one and is money. Silver is the same thing to me. It's money, but it's also really unreplaceable in its utility for industrial applications.
Well, 288 million ounces are totally registered on the COMEX, registered and eligible, right? It's the lowest level since 2018, right?
And of that 288 million, 34 or 5 million is registered, which means 250 million of the 288 million are not for sale. I have two clients right now in Brinks JFK that in total probably have 2 million ounces of silver, just two of my clients in 1,000-ounce bars in the COMEX system. So two people have 2 million ounces. That's just two of our many. And there are people just like me and my company and my clients and family offices. All of that silver is not for sale. And that's the interesting point, is that you're talking a very, very small bit of silver. Just like the LME said, if we keep seeing deliveries, there'll be none left. So we're very close to that point already. Eligible bars mean they could be put into the registered category. They have been validated and verified within the COMEX ecosystem, but they're not for sale. Registered means, okay, I put them up for sale. So if you only have 35 million or less ounces backing the system, and India imported almost 10 times that amount, what does that say to how close we are to something breaking? And I think that's what you take away. And if you take the whole ecosystem, even all those bars that aren't available for sale, and you somehow take them from people, which you can't, you still have less than India imported in 1 year. I mean, it's on the razor's edge as far as I'm concerned.
A lot of factors coming together right now. We talked part one, great reset. Now you're talking about that there's actually no silver supply available if there was another run for silver, or silver run, or even gold run to a degree. How do we prepare now for the great reset? And of course, gold and silver should be an important part of that. But question is how much? What's the time frame we should be adding? Probably a lot of us should have bought 2 years ago already. But also another question popped in my mind: what currency should we be buying in, and is that even relevant?
I don't think the currency matters. I mean, gold and silver denominated in dollars, but if you look around the world, gold hit its all-time high against the euro last year. It was up 10, 11% in pounds, even though it was flat in dollar terms. The dollar was inordinately strong, unjustifiably strong. But the strength of that dollar is a subsidy, gives you a gift in buying gold and silver at these levels, as far as I'm concerned. But it's not just buying gold and silver, it's de-dollarizing. It's getting rid of variable rate debt. It's preparing and having food and water and all of the things that you would need if a hurricane was coming. And thank God, if you don't need to use it, you can donate the food to a food shelf. You can drink your water. You can take your gun and bullets that you bought and go to a shooting range. I mean, there's a million things that you can do, but being prepared is very important. And it isn't just about gold and silver, but from a monetary perspective, there are very few places to put your money other than gold and silver that I feel comfortable in, because what I see coming in this reset environment is spiked interest rates, which are inversely correlated to the asset classes in the US that make people feel wealthy: stocks, bonds, and real estate. So there will come a time maybe to transition from your gold and silver to things like stocks, bonds, and real estate when they are trading at fair value, when the stocks are trading at a single-digit PE ratio, paying a fat dividend, or the blue chip real estate that you always wanted on the lake and the cabin up in the woods is trading at pennies on the dollar, or bonds are now trading at 7, 8, 9%, and the level of inflation has subsided down. I mean, there are cycles in everything, and gold and silver have not accentuated themselves yet, not even a little bit. I think we will see that. And at that point, there will be options when others who are trapped within the system probably have very few options whatsoever.
No, absolutely. You're a gold and silver bullion dealer as well. Any preferred denomination? Anything that makes the most sense, especially when I want to sell it again? Right, because
I think
sorry, let me expand on that real quick. Because I'd buy it for wealth preservation right now, so I'd probably be looking at buying bigger chunks. That's my theory. Meaning, like, I couldn't care less really about the 1 ounce silver coins. Because like, if the opportunity arises, I might buy that lakeside cabin. Right, then I could sell the 1,000 ounce bars again, and
right.
be kind of burdensome, wheelbarrow kind of
Well,
situation with the silver coins. But
I like
it,
somewhere in between. 1,000 ounce bar is a little cumbersome and not as liquid. The 1 ounce could be you're paying too much premium because of the utility. Find somewhere in between a kilo bar or 100 ounce bar, a kilo being 32.15 ounces, or a 100 ounce bar gives you greater liquidity and flexibility, ease of transportation. But yeah, I like that idea quite a bit. As a matter of fact, in gold, I personally like 1 ounce coins in gold because the savings you get by moving up to a 10 ounce bar or a kilo bar is not commensurate with the loss of its flexibility. Now, it is in silver. You can make the argument that a 1,000 ounce bar, the savings is commensurate with the loss of flexibility in a 1 ounce coin. But, I think that's only if you've already got your bases covered. You don't want to, when you're hungry and you want a tuna fish sandwich, you don't go to Costco to buy a can of tuna fish that's this big. You go to a grocery store. You need to have the smaller units as well when you're starting out. But if you have a core position and you're looking to capitalize on trading your silver to gold when the ratio corrects, or trading it to buy that cabin, then the larger pieces certainly do make sense. But from a standpoint of liquidity and flexibility, I think there's an urge to be penny wise and pound foolish. I think to find that sweet spot between value and utility, a la 100 ounce or a kilo bar versus 1,000, or a 1 ounce gold coin versus a 10 ounce bar, however you look at it, I think it's better to be somewhere in that middle ground where you have the ability to navigate, but at the same time not spend all your money on premium because of the smaller pieces demanding a higher premium.
Okay, let me ask one last question, Andy, and then we're going to wrap it up here. I've already, taken up a lot of your time here. Really, really appreciate it. But the question is, like, and I spoke to JP Cortez the other day. I think, do you know him? I spoke with him actually at
I do
and
not.
like, I learned the fact that actually silver and gold are not money in the U.S. Meaning, the bakery, the grocery store does not have to accept it, because the
Well,
idea
that's
is,
changing. Some of the states right now are
so
accepting gold and silver as legal tender. Um, Gold and silver are legal tender in the United States. They're made by the mint. They're not currency. There's a
yeah,
difference. So they are recognized as legal tender. And when I traveled from a show in Montreal back to the U.S. with 240 gold maple leafs that have a face value of $12,000 Canadian, it's a story that I've told forever. And I spent over an hour in the basement of the Montreal airport being grilled by Homeland Security. The final outcome was that he said, "I'll be damned, it's legal tender, you're free to go." And I said, "Well, why are you letting me leave without declaration? I'm bringing $12,000 Canadian into the United States." Even though they were 240 gold maple leafs, they each have a $50 face value. 240 times 50 is 12,000, which was about $300,000 at the time. Gold was 1,200 bucks. He says, because the conversion rate on the Canadian dollar puts that 12,000 at
like, really,
$9,700. You're free to go. So it is legal tender. It's
yeah.
not currency. There's a difference.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I think the idea behind that was that you can't have a bakery or so put a scale on their desk or on their counter to have to weigh, okay, that's exactly an ounce of silver. That's worth, I don't know, $21.50 today. And that's what you get for it.
Well, the
Right?
bigger question is, why does the U.S. Eagle 1 ounce have a $50 face value? Why does the half ounce have a 25? Why does the quarter ounce have a 10 and the 10th ounce a 5? Why is the 1 ounce silver coin a $1 face value? Why? Does that mean something in the future? Don't know. I mean, it's that way in Canada, and it's that way in Australia. They all have face values that are completely detached from their real
Real value.
value. So don't know. Maybe that's what's in store for us as we, go round about this circle and come full circle. Who knows? But anyways, Kaya, I think the bottom line is to me, gold and silver are money. They are wealth. Even if we can't spend it at the local bakery, it's been wealth since the beginning of time. It's been money since the beginning of time. And the currency that we call money, we've been hoodwinked into believing has real value. In the case of the US dollar, its only real value is the ability of the government to throw you in prison for not paying your taxes and the military behind it to go after countries that dump it. Well, the BRICS nations and all of this growing chorus of countries joining together are starting to stand up against that particular theory. And again, as the Chinese curse says, may you live in interesting times. These sure as hell aren't dull and complacent.
No, they're not. I couldn't have said it any better. Andy, I really, really appreciate your time. It was super insightful.
It's awesome, brother. Let me come back again anytime. I love the questions you ask. You get it. Anytime you need someone, call me. I'd be thrilled to come back on and pick up where we left off.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. Good update. Maybe, what is it now? It's almost March here. Jesus, mid-February. Time is flying. It's insane.
Wheels are spinning faster, brother. Yeah, you
It's
stay
crazy.
well over there, and I'll look forward again to picking up again where we left off. Hopefully, not too far down the road.
Fantastic. Andy, where can we find more of you? MilesFranklin.com?
That's right. Our new website should be done in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, but send an email at info@milesfranklin.com if you'd like info on pricing, availability, want some questions answered. Our website, which is a little bit outdated in my opinion, doesn't show pricing, is milesfranklin.com. The new one with all the bells and whistles is just about ready to be launched.
Fantastic. Andy, thank you so much. And to everybody else, thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed this 2-part series. If you haven't done so, subscribe. It's that square box or that little round birdie circle on that video here as well. Hit that button. I know 85 to 90% of you are not subscribed for whatever reason to our channel, but you're watching anyway. Do me a favor, hit that button. It helps us out tremendously to keep guests like Andy coming back and expand our reach. We really appreciate it. What do you think is going to happen? How much silver and gold do you own? Actually, don't put that in there. People will be, they might come for you. No, but your thoughts as well. Please share them with us down in the comments below. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much for your time. We'll be back with lots more.